Ons het nou ons fokus op Wêreld-aardedag voort en David Havemann van die natuur en wildlewe-opleiers EcoTraining sluit nou by ons aan om ons te vertel hoe jy beter kan omsien na die aarde. David, good morning and welcome to die groot ontbyt.
Ja, goeiemôre almal. Goeiemôre Suid-Afrika. Ek hoop almal is goed. Bietjie koud hier so in die Laagveld.
Ja, dis koud daar, so dis ook bietjie koelerig hier vanoggend, maar ek dink dit is dalk ook die impak van klimaatsverandering. Kom ons begin deur te kyk na Wêreld-aardedag en we've been talking about it, David, but let's get into why it is important to celebrate World Earth Day.
Yes, well, of course, you know, the topic for World Earth Day is to invest in planet Earth. You know, to get everybody involved with this idea is a paramount, you know, move in the right direction. The idea of sustainability, the idea of interrelatedness, how everything is connected out there in our beautiful planet, is such an important idea to bestow upon everybody around the Earth.
We always hear people saying it's our collective responsibility to look after the planet, and that's a very broad term. What exactly does it mean when we say it's our collective responsibility?
So I think, you know, the idea is to plant seeds in the back of the mind of the young generation, you know, to be able to have this idea of sustainability, you know, from young all the way up through many generations. I know certain people say that 7 generations, that's really what we are striving for. That will make a collective difference to be able to expose young people, you know, to the importance of looking after an ecosystem, you know, not just, you know, the big and fluffy and hairy and animals, you know, but everything down to the soil and how that is all connected.
Sorry, David, what are some of those smaller concepts that we can teach our children when it comes to looking after Earth?
Yeah, so where, you know, I operate, there's a lot of granite. And I think, you know, when you talk about the rock granite, you know, you immediately maybe think of your kitchen countertop. But, you know, the granite produces this beautiful soil that ultimately gives you a marula tree. You know, I think everybody knows about marulas. And then, you know, that goes all the way through to the big elephant. And then if you get a little bit closer to that tree, you actually realize that there's an emperor moth, you know, an incredibly beautiful moth that relies on this tree to survive. So this is, you know, all those little things, you know, and you might even find a black mamba up that tree. But yeah, that will need to be taught a little bit of respect right from the very beginning. And exposure right from a young age is vital.
I think it's so interesting, David, because very often I do think when we think about protecting Mother Earth and looking after it, we only think about certain elements of it. And I think you rightfully mentioned the granite, the black mamba, different things that we actually need to consider, because very often our focus is one-sided and we only look at the big things, the well-known things.
No, indeed. No, you know, and that's the thing, when you're out here, it's the amphibians, it's the, you know, even the cultural aspect that, you know, the people, the original people that lived on this land, the sand people, and how they actually gave the animals names. You know, their clicking sounds, actually, it was learned from the birds in this area. There's a tiny little bird called in Afrikaans, a sneeuwballetjie, or a black-backed, puff-backed. You know, so if you start looking into the taxonomy, the genus and the species names, there's incredible storytelling abilities out there, you know, once you start to realize that everything is connected to an ancient landscape.
That's important. Everything is connected. You know, sometimes when they say do this to protect the turtle or to protect the whale, you ask yourself, but what does that have to do with me? But we are all connected. We are nature, right?
Yes, indeed. There's that classic saying that we are all stardust. You know, it's one of the most amazing experiences to be out in the bush, you know, in sort of natural environment, and to be able to look up, you know, at the stars, and just to be part of something so much bigger than ourselves, but yet we are so connected to everything out there, which is a humbling thing and an inspiring thing, you know, which is ultimately what nature provides. You know, it helps us to get to know ourselves a bit better, helps us to make decisions better, come out into the clean air, have a nice deep breath out here. It's good on so many levels for you.
We always hear people saying restoring damaged ecosystems makes a significant difference. How do we do that, and how will it help?
Yeah, so one of my fondest memories is going down to a river system and picking up a rock and looking under the rock, and you see that there's tiny little insects that live in this river system, and you can actually determine the river health, the health of the water, by exactly which insects live, you know, inside this river. I spent some time now down at the Crocodile River in Bachendal, and you know, you can take the kids down there to obviously with a professional person with a rifle, you know, down to the river's edge, and you know, just look at the water turbidity, so the cleanliness of the water. Remember, the darker, the more soil that there is in the water, the quicker the water heats up. So that's not really good for organisms. And all this is coming off the landscape, you know, from maybe bad farming practices up the way. You know, after all that rain, we saw what happens to soil. It just gets washed away. And that's generally because, you know, the original trees, the landscape that was there has been farmed away. And, you know, you got, you know, vegetation there with not very good root systems. So there's this whole ripple effect that can, you know, destroy certain habitats.
What role does game rangers and your field guides play in all of this?
Yeah, so, you know, game rangers are generally out there in the reserves. They are a presence. I think one of the best examples are the anti-poaching teams, you know, walking around, looking after. We know that the rhinos are an incredibly in a bad state at the moment, not doing very well. But having the game rangers on the ground is a wonderful presence, you know, whereas the field guides, they deal generally directly with guests and the public, and they're obviously the ones that are the ambassadors for this terrain, and they, you know, inspiring people with what is going on the ground. And you'll more than likely find that the game rangers and the field guides will intermesh and work together.
And what can the public do when we visit these game reserves? You know, hopefully over this weekend we might find ourselves there, or pretty soon take a bit of a holiday, those of us who are just this week finished us. What can we do to help protect nature when we are at these game reserves?
Yeah, you know, I would say, you know, picking up some litter, I think, is always a good thing. You know, pick up, do something good. You know, doesn't mean that you need to be patted on the back all the time to do that. As in, go out there and do something good for the environment. Pick up litter. You know, maybe support a local initiative. I know that there's a lot of farm markets around, you know, down here in Hoedspruit. I noticed the other day that I also remember out here at a place called Mashishimala, close to Palabora, is the origin of amarula cream. But I see the local community now is selling the amarula nuts. So to support the locals is a vital endeavor to anybody that's coming out into, you know, the game reserves. You know, when you go into the Kruger National Park at those gates, you know, there's so many lovely little trinkets. You more than likely find that they have been made by the locals.
Absolutely. David, thank you so much for taking time today to speak to us, especially on World Earth Day. We really appreciate it.
An absolute pleasure. Go well, everybody. Lekker dag verder. Lekker naweek. Tada.
Dit was natuurlijk David Havemann van EcoTraining wat ons aangesluit het.